Global happenings today. We communicate, we analyze global news. Stay tuned.
Hello guys, welcome to Global Happenings Today. We have a trending news here for you. And the headline of the news reads, Emeka Ihedioha will take back his office through the Supreme Court if he does this. But before we continue with details of the news and further analysis, we'd like to encourage you to please subscribe to our channel by clicking on the red subscribe button and also on the bell icon so that you can get notification anytime we publish videos on YouTube. All right, let's listen to the news in detail.
Bearing in mind that the ruling was made by the nation's highest judicial authority, the Supreme Court, everyone appears to believe that there is really nothing left for Ihedioha to rely upon for some hope. There are grounds for this position. The most prominent is that the Supreme Court is the last court of the land, meaning that after it, no other court is available to a party for further action. In other words, the situation is not like what happens in the lower court, when a party can proceed to appeal to higher court where he is dissatisfied with judgment. For this reason, some analysts have condemned the call by the People's Democratic Party, PDP, for the Supreme Court to reverse itself in Imo State case. The only thing in our view that is wrong with the position of the PDP is the interpretation, as in the temperate diction employed at the press conference where the call was made. Otherwise, the rule that a court cannot reverse itself is not absolute. To revisit a case already settled has happened many times before. Almost 50 years ago, we had a case of Johnson versus Lawanson, 1971, 7 NSCC 82, where the Supreme Court found a cause to overrule itself. In that case, Justice J.B.A. Coker of the Apex Court made the point that when the court is faced with the alternative of perpetuating what it is satisfied is an erroneous decision which was reached by incorium and will, if followed, inflict hardship and injustice upon the generations in the future, or of causing temporary disturbance of rights acquired under such a decision, I do not think we shall hesitate to declare the law as we find it. What the above implies is that, what this means is that the convention that courts do not reverse themselves has exceptions. One of which is that a party is allowed to seek a revisit of a decision, a decided case, if the decision was arrived at a fraudulent or deceit or in earnest, when there are clerical errors in the judgment. From the little that has been made public about the Imo judgment, it is obvious that the election has been accorded more votes than the number of voters accredited to vote. An anomaly that is made more visible by the current arrangement in which accreditation and voting are merged. However, the number of votes scored in an election can be lower than the number accredited, where some ballots are found to be invalid. The decision of the Supreme Court in the Imo governorship case that the exclusion of certain votes was illegal because it was done by unauthorized official cannot be faulted. It is in actual fact a point to be saluted if we must put an end to our history of rancorous elections. But if the addition of the controversial votes creates mathematical errors, as we now have, the court ought to correct such clerical error, accidental slip, or omission. That is probably what any person would regard as the ordinary meaning of Order 8, Rule 16 of the Supreme Court rules, which creates an exception to the rule that a court cannot revisit its own ruling. Thus, nothing in our view stops Emeka Ihedioha from pointing out the apparent error occasioned by addition of the voting figures approved by the court. All he needs to do is to present an application to the court for the correction of the error in computing the vote and not to seek an appeal. In other words, Ihedioha must not go to court to seek a reversal of his case as Andy Uba was wrongly persuaded to do in the Anambra governorship election in 2007. Ihedioha should stop at correcting errors. In truth, if the Supreme Court had averted her mind to the absurdity of the figures we are now seeing, she would have seen with relative ease some wisdom in the earlier rejection by the electoral body of obviously concocted figures which Nigerian politicians are experts of. She would have realized that allowing the figures would do incalculable damage to our electoral and democratic system. This is why we call on Supreme Court to, on its own, without the prompting of a party, correct the obvious error which would not derogate from its credibility, because although the court is final, its members are not infallible. They are human. This is our own understanding of what the late legend Chukwudifo Opota meant when he said many years back, while referring to those of them in the Supreme Court, that we are final not because we are infallible. Rather, we are infallible because we are final. What will make the finality of our apex court to be greatly cherished is where the court is not only fair and just, but where it also adopts an approach which allows errors to be corrected. If the truth must be told, such respect for the court, or what may be better described as public perception of our Supreme Court at this point in time, is rather low. The way of reversing the trend is for the court to embrace substantial rather than technical justice as its priority, and to revisit a case whose judgment is laced with errors. Otherwise, a judgment that no one will comfortably follow in future will be a great attack on the doctrine of judicial precedent. The judgment in the Imo State governorship case, which has approved more votes than voters, has all the potential of serving as a bad case. It should be promptly corrected, he said.
All right, thank you very much. This is a good one, and it's a pathway to follow. Day after day, we are learning on how to go about a lot of things. And I think that this should be considered by Emeka Ihedioha if he has any intention of getting back his most esteemed office. Because if you go through our feed, you will see a particular video that we did, and we spent time to analyze it. It was really amazing. I don't know how that could happen, and everybody just, shut down. They didn't say anything about it. When we sat back and mathematically we went through the figures, we realized at the end of the day that the number of votes were more than the number of accredited voters. So that, for one, is a wrong thing. It's not a judicial precedent that can be referred to in the nearest future. And if it is being always referred to, it therefore means that we will see that the precedent was actually a bad one, But then before we go further with discussion, we'd like to consider certain response of Nigerians to this. This one say here, it's incomprehensible and unacceptable that the number of valid votes in an election should be higher than the number of accredited voters. A word is enough for the wise. If the present CGN doesn't want to be mentioned in history as the one that destroys the credibility of the judiciary, he should correct those figures so that judicial justice can reign. It's an act of courage and an honorable one for the CGN to correct the figures rather than live with shame of the cowardly act of allowing the present injustice to be upheld. Justice Tanko, this is a great opportunity for you to write your name in gold. Seize it. You are not less a man than the person you think you are serving their interests. A word is enough for the wise. Now, this is overly important, and I think they should really reconsider this. I believe at one point, when you make decisions as important as this, you go back home and you begin to look through your books and begin to listen to criticism, constructive criticism, and begin to check, this decision I have made, is it a good one? There is nothing bad for you to say, well, we have reconsidered our stand on this, and we've realized that there was actually mistakes, and we have seen reason why the higher court, that's the High Court, and the appeal court refused it. It was through our combination and permutation, addition and subtraction has clearly shown that if we add this to this is what it will result to, and it will not correlate with the total number of voters that were accredited. So therefore, we have decided to call back our listing and cancel it. That's not bad enough, It's not bad enough. The decision will be, you will be highly respected, because it clearly shows not just that you are, you are fair, but it clearly shows that you can correct the mistakes that in Nigeria. Let me digress a little bit. We are going to read other comments. Let me digress a little bit. Now, that's the problem we have even in the church in Nigeria. They will go out, spill out some gullible words, which is not in line with the gospel of Jesus Christ. They will say things that are not right. And when they come to realization that what they've been teaching their members 10 years ago, it was wrong, they can't even come back to tell their members, oh, we are sorry, that teaching that we taught you 2 years ago, 3 years ago was actually wrong. And you begin to wonder, what level of pride is this? It doesn't make any sense. All right, let's go back now and let's be looking at this. Another responder said this. He said, when the valid votes brought forward by Hope Uzodinma has been omitted, outnumbers accredited voters per polling unit in the presence of void votes and was accepted by the apex court to give one's victory, it is fallacy of hasty conclusion and requires urgent revisit and correction for the sake of future reference. But Nigerians understand this thing very well. If you refuse to do it, tomorrow Nigerians will never forget. He will never be remembered in history. The only thing that people will remember him for was this was one of the CGNs that made a wrong decision that brought about lack of respect for the judiciary. That's the only thing he will be remembered for. These guys are very desperate. They can push you to do anything. It's better for you to make this decision and resign. And Nigerians everywhere you go, people will stand up and will give you a salute because they know that you understand your work very well. I believe that they are going to remember, he will reconsider all of these things and, take it into consideration. All the members of the Supreme Court, all the 7 judges that were present. Now, the third person here says, hope the Supreme Court took the path of honor seriously. But as far as we are concerned, the entire judiciary is in the firm grip of the president, not when he touched his Chief Justice of the Federation and the matter concerns his party. It's in Nigerian Buhari Supreme Court that a number 4 party in an election, being the president's party, can, through some legal gimmicks, suddenly becomes number 1. It was unthinkable. It was unthinkable. First of all, the first thing that I feel that they would have considered would have been to strip people of some of their votes and put there. But you just know that it's not possible because those votes were valid.
Yes, and have been fully
documented. They were valid. The people who were sent as party representatives came with those things.
And also have a copy.
And they all have a copy. So how did you generate your own? The Supreme Court, a lot of people believe that the Supreme Court is under the grip of Buhari, but I can assure you that the Chief Justice has the right to make an independent decision right now concerning this case. The only thing is that we are so naive, not just being naive, we are so, carried away by bigotry, carried away by, ethnicity, that sometimes we do not really respect certain things. This is an opportunity for you to write. If I was this man, this is an opportunity for you to write your name in gold. You do it and finish. Oh God, you take a walk, resign. Right now, if he resigns, all that goes, or retired, all that goes with the office of a Chief Justice of Nigeria will be handed over to him. Don't allow them to sack you. Just when you finish, you throw in your paper, call for your retirement. I'm old enough, I want to retire. I don't want to work again. And off you go. And people will respect you for it. You can see that by the comments that we have read out, it clearly shows that Nigerians understand this thing very well. And I believe that if Ihedioha follows this track, he's going to get back his mandate. The third one, the last one which we are going to consider here, said, if Ihedioha demands that the Supreme Court should look into the mathematical error in that judgment, the figure is not well done in order. Supreme Court 7-man should recheck again. But that's just it. That was even, that's why please just go back. You see that so that you clearly understand the discussion was quite explicit. You see critical analysis of what transpired, the Supreme Court judgment against Emeka Ihedioha. We took time to explain everything, narrating the figures that were present there, and we did our addition, and we clearly came out with it that this thing did not, did not drive, it did not rhyme, it was
so fraudulent.
yeah,
So
obvious that whatever, maybe, one of the things that I want Nigerians to understand at this point, so that you give them a level playing ground. As I'm talking about the justices who were there, you give them a level playing ground, and you make them realize that they are not cheating. Right now, let's just make them realize they were not cheating, is the fact that they are human beings. Some of them, in law, you don't have to have A1 in mathematics. A P7 can get you there. So maybe they didn't do their addition and subtractions, just like, Justice Ogbuta had said, that they are not like infallible. You understand? They make mistakes. They can make mistake at any time. So please, I think that Ihedioha should call for this, and so that the corrections will be made.
But why are we still dragging this? I would have expected, if this is so difficult, they should nullify this whole thing and have a rerun only for Imo State. Just a little money. After all, Nigeria have the money, just Imo State have it, just the way they did for Smart and
but we know that if there's a rerun in this thing, certainly APC will pick it. We all know it. You see what happened at Kogi State. It was obvious when these guys want to do this election. All
like
might will just go there, and before you know, they'll be the one to bring out the result. This one should be corrected, and we use these same results. There is no need for any more election. This is the same result that should be used, and the right thing done. There is no way a number 4 can jump to number 1. It's absolutely not possible. That miracle is not of God. I'm telling you the whole truth. That's not a miracle of God. If God wants to do his miracle, what they had stolen from you, it will be clearly obvious. People will know, oh, this was taken away from you. This one is kabu kabu that they did there.